All right, here it is, the complete TOEFL iBT practice number 10. This is the new version of the test. So if you've watched some of the other videos that we've released recently on the channel, I took all of the sections, reading, listening, speaking, writing, and put it into one video right here so you can have a full new test experience. If you haven't heard, July 26, 2023, the TOEFL test changed. They replaced a couple things and kept some things the same, but basically reading section is shorter. There's only 2 passages instead of 3. There's no extended listening and reading, so that's done. If you remember in the past, sometimes they would give you an extra reading or listening. Not going to do that anymore. And the third big change is that there's a new writing question. So this is all included in this video. So everything that you need for the new TOEFL is here. And if you want to practice with new TOEFL materials, we updated our TOEFL Emergency Premium course. Everything is new, everything is updated, tips, tricks, strategies. Of course, we use some older stuff too, but really everything is for the new test. And so practice tests are included, study plans are included. Check it out. I'll put a link in the description. And also the answer keys in the description as well. That's it. Good luck, everybody. And yeah, good luck. Good luck with the test. This is a new, complete TOEFL iBT reading practice test. This test mimics the changes that the TOEFL is going to make on July 26, 2023. So if you haven't heard, the test has changed. On July 26, 2023, the reading section of the test has been reduced, reduced is the word for it. So there used to be 3 passages, 30 questions. Now there are 2 passages and 20 questions. Everything else is the same, except now there's only 2 passages and 20 questions. One more thing is that there will not be an extended version of the reading section. In the past, they used to sometimes give you an extra reading test. No more. When you take the TOEFL iBT, 2 reading passages, 20 questions, that's what you have to do. You have 36 minutes to finish it. Couple more things to keep in mind. First, you can download the PDF in the description for answer explanations. I have put the answers in the description, but you can also find explanations in the PDF if you need it. The other thing to keep in mind is that on test day, the reading passage is on the right and the questions are on the left. But for this test, to make things easier for you to see so the text isn't really small, I've put each paragraph with a question right below it. On top of that, you're not in control of your time here, but you are in control of your time on test day. On test day, you have 36 minutes to finish the whole reading section, 18 minutes each passage. If you want to take a short amount of time with a question, you can do that. But here, each question has the same amount of time, about 90 seconds. And again, last thing, download the PDF in the description for answer explanations. I can't say this enough. Please do not comment where are the answers. They're in the description. All right, last thing. If you need more help with the TOEFL, you need practice test questions, you're tired of wasting your time with TOEFL iBT stuff and you're not sure where to find the best tips, tricks, and strategies to get your best possible score, check out the TOEFL Emergency Premium package. We have study plans for people for 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and 1 month. So no matter how long you have to prepare, there's a study plan for you in this premium course, has 6 practice tests. This offer is only available for our YouTube audience, so follow the link in the description to the TOEFL Premium course. That's it. Good luck, everybody, and I'll see you at the end. check out the TOEFL Emergency Premium Package. We have study plans for people for 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and 1 month. So no matter how long you have to prepare, there's a study plan for you in this premium course. Has 6 practice tests. This offer is only available for our YouTube audience, so follow the link in the description to the TOEFL Premium course. You're about to take a complete TOEFL listening practice test. Now this test has been updated for the recent change in July of 2023 to the TOEFL iBT test. Now the big changes on the TOEFL iBT are in the reading and writing sections. The speaking and listening haven't changed much, but there's one thing you should note about the TOEFL listening, is that there is no more extended passage. So in the past, sometimes they would give you an extended part. They would give you an extra part to do, and it didn't count towards your grade. They don't do that anymore. So you can expect 2 parts, 5 listening passages on test day, always. All right, so this is the updated version. Couple other things to keep in mind. First thing is that answers are in the description. Can't say this enough. Don't write in the comments where are the answers. They are in the description. If you need an answer key, you need an explanation, there's a PDF, a link that you can download. You'll see it in the description. The next thing is that on test day, you're in control of your time. So here, I only give you a certain amount of time per passage to kind of mimic the entire time that you'll have. But on test day, if you answer a question quickly, you can do it quickly, you can go slowly. You do have a set amount of time, so you have to be careful of that. But just so you know, here, each question has the same amount of time, but on test day, it's up to you if you want to go a little faster. And the last thing is that check out the TOEFL Emergency Premium course. We have study plans for students if you have 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month, fits your schedule, has a lot of practice tests, practice questions, and tips and tricks and strategies. If you're tired of wasting your time with TOEFL and you just want to know everything you need as quickly as possible, this is the perfect course for you. This offer is only available on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description below to the TOEFL Emergency Premium course. But that's about it. Good luck, everybody, and I'll see you at the end. Now listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Hey, Professor, do you have a minute to chat?
Absolutely, Chris. What's going on?
I thought the midterm would be just about the adaptation of animals in the savannah, but now we've started reviewing other ecosystems. Will we have to know about...
Sorry to interrupt, but before I forget, have you applied for the teacher's assistant position yet?
Oh, you mean the TA job? No, I haven't. I was planning on doing that later tonight, actually.
Okay, great, because the deadline is in 2 weeks, and I would really love for you to come on as a TA so we can do research together.
Of course, yeah, that's the plan.
There is another student who already applied and she got the position. So now there's just 1 slot left, and I would hate to see you miss out on it. It would be a great opportunity and learning experience for you, not to mention, look good on your job applications.
You're right. I definitely don't want to lose this position. I just have a couple of questions before I submit my application, though. The job description says it will be a commitment of about 20 hours a week, but in reality, does it end up being more than that? Just considering all the papers to grade and research to do?
In the beginning, it might take you a bit longer than 20 hours to get all your work done, but once you get the hang of it, you should be just fine. Of course, you can always put in more hours with me doing research, but I also understand if you need to cut back a little if you have a test coming up or something like that.
That's good to know. And also, what do I do if I don't know how to answer a student's question? I'm worried that the students won't have confidence in me if I'm unsure of what to say.
Don't worry. It's fine if you don't know the answer to something, and all you need to do is be honest. But let the students know that you promise to look it up and get back to them as quickly as possible. The last thing you want to do is lie about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I can do that. All right, well, then I think I will go to the library right now and get my application so I don't miss out. Thank you for reminding me and answering my questions. I'm excited.
Great. Now, what is it you wanted to ask me about the midterm?
Now, answer the questions. 1. What is the conversation mainly about?
2. What is the student implying about the TA position when he asks the professor about the papers he will have to grade? Three. Why does the professor want the student to apply to become a TA? Select 2. Four. Why hasn't the student applied to be a TA yet? Select 2. Five. What does the professor tell the student to do if he does not know the answer to a question from a student? Now listen to part of a talk in an American history class.
So much of the American South, particularly cities today like New Orleans and others along the Mississippi, grew out of the immense success of one particular crop, cotton. In the era before the Civil War of the 1860s, planters in the American South continued to grow mostly tobacco and rice as they had done for over 100 years. Cotton, however, emerged as the South's major commercial crop, replacing tobacco, rice, and sugar in economic importance. By 1860, much of the American South was producing 2/3 of the world's cotton. In 1793, Eli Whitney revolutionized the production of cotton when he invented the cotton gin, a device that separated the seeds from raw cotton. Suddenly, a process that was extraordinarily labor-intensive when done by hand could be completed quickly and easily.
Wait, so cotton wasn't popular before the invention of the cotton gin?
Well, yes, I would say that's accurate. Almost no cotton was grown in the United States in 1787, and by 1840, cotton became the key cash crop for the Southern economy. But I think it would be helpful to take a step back and take a closer look at how cotton was grown. Okay, cotton planting took place in March and April when slaves planted seeds in rows around 3 to 5 feet apart. Over the next several months, from April to August, they carefully took care of the plants, which took significant energy and time. In August, after the cotton plants had flowered and the flowers had begun to give way to actual cotton, all the farm slaves, men, women, and children, worked together to pick the crop. Cotton picking occurred as many as 7 times a season as the plant grew and continued to produce through the fall and early winter. During the picking season, slaves worked from sunrise to sunset, with a 10-minute break at lunch. Many slaveholders tended to give them little to eat, since spending on food would cut into their profits. The slaves' day didn't end after they picked the cotton. First, they had to bring it in to be weighed, then they had to care for the animals and perform other chores. Indeed, slaves often maintained their own gardens and livestock, which they tended after working the cotton fields in order to supplement their supply of food.
This is really terrible. It's hard for me to imagine that no one thought of how inhumane it all was.
Well, there are a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest factors was greed, to be honest. As the cotton industry boomed in the South, the Mississippi River quickly became the essential water highway in the United States. This led to the growth of other industries besides just cotton. Steamboats, as a crucial part of the transportation revolution, became an integral part of the cotton trade in the American South. Investors poured huge sums of money into steamships. In 1817, only 17 operated in the rivers in and around the Mississippi, but by 1837, there were over 700 steamships in operation. Major new ports developed to handle all these ships, which brought about the development of modern-day cities like St. Louis, Missouri, and Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow, so is this how New Orleans grew into such a large city?
Exactly. New Orleans had been part of the French Empire before the United States purchased it in 1803. In the first half of the 19th century, it rose in importance largely because of the cotton boom and its position near the mouth of the Mississippi River. Steamboats moved down the river transporting cotton grown on plantations along the river and throughout the South to the port at New Orleans. From there, the bulk of American cotton went to England, where it was sold to British manufacturers who ran the cotton mills. This lucrative international trade brought new wealth and new residents to the city. By 1840, New Orleans alone had 12% of the nation's total banking capital, and visitors often commented on the great cultural diversity of the city becoming a thriving metropolis that rivaled New York in importance.
Now, answer the questions. 1. What is the lecture mainly about? 2. What part of the cotton growing process took place in March and April? 3. Why does the professor talk about steamboats? 4. What does the professor imply about the slaves working on the cotton plantations? Five. Why does the professor say this?
But I think it would be helpful to take a step back and take a closer look at how cotton was grown.
6. What does the professor imply about slave owners? Now listen to part of a talk in an economics class.
As we all know, people sometimes make decisions that seem irrational and not in their own best interest. These decisions can seem inconsistent from one day to the next, and they even deliberately ignore ways to save money or time. The traditional economic models assume rationality, which means that people take all available information and make consistent and informed decisions that are in their best interest all the time. Now, I'm laughing because it probably seems obvious to you that this is clearly not the case. People are impulsive and moody. Still, it's important to keep in mind that this traditional model of economics was almost universally agreed upon until behavioral economics came around in the 1970s. So let's look at an example of the traditional model of economics. Imagine that yesterday you had a $10 bill in your pocket, but you lost it. The next day, you received an extra $10 bill in your paycheck. Simple. Now, according to traditional economists, you would feel completely neutral about this. After all, you lost $10 and then gained $10. You are financially the same as you were before, so you shouldn't feel much of anything about this entire situation. Behavioral economists argue that the traditional method leaves out something very important: people's state of mind. Research has shown that people tend to focus much more on a loss than a gain. A loss of $10 is more likely to be accompanied by anger and frustration, while a gain of $10 will elicit much less intense emotions. This is known as loss aversion, where a dollar loss pains us more than twice as much as a dollar gain helps us. This insight has implications for investing, as people tend to overplay the stock market by reacting more to losses than to gains. Indeed, this behavior looks irrational to traditional economists, but is consistent once we understand better how the mind works. Another area that seems illogical is the idea of mental accounting, or putting dollars in different mental categories where they take different values. Economists typically consider dollars to have equal value to the individual, regardless of the situation. You might, for instance, think of the $25 you found in the street differently from the $25 you earned from 3 hours working in a fast food restaurant. The street money might well be treated as extra money with little rational regard to getting the best value. This is, in one sense, strange, since it is still equivalent to 3 hours of hard work in the restaurant. Yet this easy-come, easy-go mentality replaces the rational economical mind because of the situation, or context, in which the money was attained. In another example of mental accounting that seems inconsistent to a traditional economist, a person could carry a credit card debt of $1,000 that has a 15% yearly interest cost, and simultaneously have a $2,000 savings account that pays only 2% a year. That means she pays $150 a year to the credit card company while collecting only $20 annually in bank interest, so she loses $130 a year. That doesn't seem wise. The rational decision would be to pay off the debt, since a $1,000 savings account with $0 in debt is the equivalent net worth, and she would now net $20 a year. But curiously, it is not uncommon for people to ignore this advice, since they will treat a loss to their savings account as higher than the benefit of paying off the credit card. The dollars are not being treated equally in all circumstances, so it looks irrational to traditional economists. Which view is right, the behavioral economists or the traditional view? Both have their advantages, but behavioral economists have at least shed a light on trying to describe and explain behavior that has historically been dismissed as irrational. If most of us are engaged in some irrational behavior, perhaps there are deeper underlying reasons for this behavior in the first place.
Now, answer the questions. 1. What is the lecture mainly about? 2. Based on the information from the listening, indicate which characteristic on the left belongs to either traditional economists or behavioral economists. This question is worth 2 points. Three, how does the professor organize the lecture? 4. According to the professor, if you lost $10 yesterday, but then found $10 on the ground today, how would you feel about it from a traditional economist's point of view? Five, what does the professor imply about traditional and behavioral models of economics? 6. Why does the professor say this?
That means she pays $150 a year to the credit card company while collecting only $20 annually in bank interest, so she loses $130 a year. That doesn't seem wise.
Check out the TOEFL Emergency Premium Package. We have study plans for people for 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and 1 month. So no matter how long you have to prepare, there's a study plan for you in this premium course. Has 6 practice tests. This offer is only available for our YouTube audience, so follow the link in the description to the TOEFL Premium course.
Now listen to a conversation between a student and an office worker.
Excuse me? I just got my grade report and I think there's been a mistake. It says my name on it and everything, but when I look at it, I notice these aren't my grades.
You're barking up the wrong tree here. If you have a problem with your grades, you'll have to talk to your professor about that.
No, it's not that. I know what my grades should be, and it's not these. I think something happened, like my grades got mixed up with someone else's. I'm positive this grade report is not correct.
All right. Well, before we jump to any conclusions, let me pull up your report so I can see what's going on. What's your name?
Jessica Simpson?
Okay. So, I have your report on my screen. Does this match what you have?
No. I mean, that looks like the grades I was supposed to have, but oh wait, this isn't my grade report. But maybe this is the person that my grade report got switched up with. Look, her name is also Jessica Simpson, but the middle initial is different. Mine is L, but this one says Jessica J. Simpson. That's got to be it.
That's possible now that I think about it. That shouldn't have happened, but I guess it really could have been a mistake.
So, what do we do about it? How can we fix this? I want to have my correct grades on my transcript, and it's not my fault the grades got mixed up.
Of course. Okay, so for now, here's what I can do. First, I need to make a copy of your ID so I can confirm your identity. Then I can submit a report to have this investigated. We will have to confirm the other student's identity and reach out to the professors to confirm grades. Once all of that has happened, you should get a notice by email that the report was resolved. If you don't see a message from us within 3 days, please stop by again to check in and see what's going on, okay?
Okay, I will keep an eye out for an email from you. Thank you so much. Hopefully, this can be fixed easily.
Of course. Anything else I can help you with?
Nope, that's it. Have a great day.
Now, answer the questions. 1. Why does the student want to talk to the records and registration worker? 2. Listen again to part of the passage. Why does the campus worker say this?
You're barking up the wrong tree here. If you have a problem with your grades, you'll have to talk to your professor about that. 3. Why does the student have an incorrect grade report? 4. How will the campus worker help solve the student's problem? Five. How will the student know when her problem is resolved?
Now listen to part of a talk in an astronomy class.
Now, it may not look it to us, but the Earth and the Sun are living things just like you and I. They were born at some point, and now they live, and unfortunately, one day they will die. Sad, I know, but take comfort in the fact that these things most likely will not come to pass for another billion years, so I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Still, as astronomers, it's important for us to consider how it would look when the sun starts to age and what type of effect it might have on Earth. And, perhaps more importantly, what can we do to save our Earth from the same sun that gives us so much life? Well, let's look at the sun first. Not literally, of course. I don't want any of you going blind while in my class. Okay, so the sun is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 billion years old. In its younger days, it produced only about 70% of the energy that it radiates today. Carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere has steadily declined as the sun has increased what we astronomers refer to as luminosity, which is the strength and brightness of the sun's energy. This increase in luminosity and decrease in carbon dioxide on Earth has led to a fairly stable climate, which has been the key in development of complex life forms on our planet. As a result of changes at its core, the sun will continue to increase in luminosity as it grows older, and more radiation will reach Earth. For a while, the amount of carbon dioxide will continue to decrease. Eventually, the heating of Earth will melt the polar ice caps and increase the evaporation of the oceans. About 1 billion years from now, Earth will lose its water vapor. In the upper atmosphere, sunlight will break down water vapor into hydrogen, and the fast-moving hydrogen atoms will escape into outer space. Earth will start to resemble the planet Venus of today, and temperatures will become much too high for life as we know it. Now, all of this will happen before the sun even becomes a red giant. Then the really bad news starts. The sun, as it expands, will swallow Mercury and Venus, and friction with our star's outer atmosphere will make these planets spin inward until they are completely destroyed. It is not completely clear whether Earth will escape a similar fate. What, then, can we Earthlings do to preserve life on our planet? One alternative may be to move the entire Earth progressively farther from the sun. I know it sounds ridiculous, but we astronomers are fairly serious. The idea is to use gravity in the same way rockets have used it to send spacecrafts to distant planets. When a spacecraft flies near a planet, the planet's motion can be used to speed up the spacecraft, slow it down, or redirect it. Calculations show that if we were to redirect an asteroid so that it follows just the right orbit between Earth and Jupiter, it could transfer orbital energy from Jupiter to Earth and move Earth slowly outward, pulling us away from the expanding sun. Now, it may seem crazy to think about projects to move an entire planet to a different orbit, but remember that we're talking about the distant future. If, by some miracle, human beings are able to get along for all that time and don't blow ourselves to bits, our technology is likely to be far more sophisticated than it is today. It may also be that if humans survive for hundreds of millions of years, we may spread to planets or habitats around other stars. Indeed, Earth, by then, might be a museum world to which youngsters from other planets return to learn about the origin of our species. It is also possible that evolution will, by then, have changed us in ways that allow us to survive in very different environments. The possibilities are endless.
Now, answer the questions. 1. What is the lecture mainly about? 2. Why does the professor say this?
Sad, I know, but take comfort in the fact that these things most likely will not come to pass for another billion years, so I wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
3. According to the passage, which of the following is a way to preserve life on Earth suggested by astronomers? Four. What does the professor imply about the future of the Earth? Five. What change in the sun is going to cause problems on Earth? Six. What does the professor say are some possible ways that we might survive as the sun continues to grow? Select 2.
You're about to take a complete practice test for the new TOEFL speaking. If you haven't heard, the TOEFL iBT has changed. On July 26, 2023, there are changes to the writing and reading section and a little bit of listening as well. But speaking really hasn't changed at all. So it's a new test, but speaking is pretty much the same exact thing as it's been since 2019. So there's no meaningful changes, but these are some new questions, haven't put on YouTube before, so hope you guys find this helpful. A couple of notes really quickly before we get started. Get ready to record your voice. It's really helpful to listen back to your speaking. You know, it's hard to remember what you say and how you say it in the moment. Really, I know you hate the sound of your own voice, but get used to it. It'll be really helpful. You can also download our speaking templates and grading rubrics, and I'll put a link in that so you can grade yourself if you want. I'll also put a link to a website called My Speaking Score, which gives you feedback on your speaking. I will also give you sample responses. At the end of the test, you can hear some sample responses to these questions as well, so you can get an idea of how you should respond. And yeah, again, you could download the PDF if you want the text version of this. Link in the description to the test so you can have a file on your computer all the time. That's totally fine. So I'll put a link to that. And the last thing is to check out the speaking study plan. This is for my own site, Speaker English. So this is a kind of side project. I usually always talk about TST prep, but Speaker English, I've made study plans for TOEFL speaking in particular. That is 30 to 90 days. And basically you have a plan, you know what to do every day, one question every day. What makes this unique and different is that it's not a course with just videos. You know, it's not a meeting with a teacher. What it is that it's something that you have every day that can help you improve your speaking. This is for students who have taken the test before and haven't gotten their speaking score. If you haven't taken the test yet, I don't think it's a good fit for you. So just keep that in mind. It's for people who are struggling with the speaking, really. Okay, it's designed to help you improve your overall speaking abilities. But anyway, let me get back to the test, sorry. So let's get back to the TOEFL speaking test. It's about to start. Good luck, everybody, and I will see you at the end.
Directions. You will now be asked a question about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to plan your response and 45 seconds to speak. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Video games have a positive impact on children. Provide reasons and examples to support your stance. You have 15 seconds to prepare your response. You may begin preparing now. You now have 45 seconds to speak. You may begin speaking now. Directions. You will now read a short passage and then listen to a conversation on the same topic. You will then be asked a question about the passages. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. You have 45 seconds to read the passage below. You may begin reading now. Now listen to a conversation about the same topic. Hi, Jenny. You must be pretty pleased to hear about Coach Jepson's new role, right?
Actually, my feelings are completely the opposite. I was really disappointed when I heard the news.
But aren't you on the volleyball team?
Yeah, and that's why I'm upset. We've got a good team, and I thought we could win the championship next year. But now, I'm doubtful. I've looked into Coach Jepson's experience, and she's worked as either a soccer coach or a softball coach for her whole career.
Ah, I see. You worry that she might not know enough about volleyball.
Right. I'm sure she'll learn, but I don't know how quickly. And until she does, I'm concerned she won't have the knowledge required to help the team win more games.
I see your point.
And I think the college doesn't really understand how much Coach Smith supported us off the court.
Coach Smith? You mean the current coach?
Yeah, they mentioned that Coach Jepson's players have an excellent GPA, but so do we. Coach Smith always made time for us after practice if we needed any help in our classes. On top of that, if any of our GPAs dropped below a certain number, we wouldn't be allowed to play. I'm sure Miss Jepson is nice, but so is Coach Smith. I really don't think the team's GPA is that low.
Well, either way, looks like you all have a new coach. Now, answer the question. The woman expresses her opinion about the situation described in the announcement. State her opinion and explain the reason she gives for holding that opinion. You have 30 seconds to prepare your response. You may begin preparing now. You now have 60 seconds to speak. You may begin speaking now. Directions. You will now read a short passage and then listen to a lecture on the same topic. You will then be asked a question about the passages. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. You have 45 seconds to read the passage below. You may begin reading now. Now listen to a lecture about this topic in a psychology class.
So, as was already mentioned in the reading, the yips is most commonly associated with sports, and some of the best examples come from baseball. Bill Blass was an all-star baseball player in the 1960s and early 1970s. In 1973, however, Blass suddenly lost his previous pitching abilities. One day, without warning, he just couldn't pitch the way he used to. You see, in the past, Blass would just pitch. He had a considerable amount of training leading up to the time he became a professional baseball player, which was mainly stored in his unconscious mind. But once he became aware of the complicated motions associated with throwing a baseball, he was no longer able to perform at a high level. His career went to decline, and sadly, he was never able to overcome this problem. But the yips aren't always fatal to an athlete's career. Another baseball player, Steve Sax, started to suffer from a similar deterioration of basic baseball mechanics in the 1983 season. After a single bad throw in a game, Sax began to question his throwing ability, and fear started to cloud his judgment. He committed error after error while throwing to first base. However, Sax worked with a psychologist to help identify the fears which were getting in the way of his performance. It was through Sax's ability to identify his fears and notice them while he played that helped him return to his normal playing form. He played for another 13 years after that, without experiencing the same problems.
Now, answer the question. Using the examples of Bill Blass and Steve Sax from the lecture, describe what the yips is. You have 30 seconds to prepare your response. You may begin preparing now. You now have 60 seconds to speak. You can begin speaking now. Directions. You will now listen to part of a lecture. You will then be asked a question about it. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Now listen to part of a lecture in a history class.
Well, today we are going to talk about the Industrial Revolution. This major shift in the economy caused massive numbers of people to seek work in factories which didn't exist before then. Even though industrialization certainly shaped the society that we all live in and enjoy today, there were some very negative side effects that have also had a lasting impact. To start, cities are densely populated today because of the Industrial Revolution. Before factories sprouted up in cities, people were happy to live in rural areas in tight-knit families within small, local communities. According to some estimates, urban populations increased by up to 40% during the onset of industrialization. The rural landscape was soon abandoned by families that may have lived there for generations. The promise of easy jobs and high wages appealed to younger people who wanted to see more of the world, and even to families who were tired of relying on the weather and a favorable crop season for food. Since then, it has remained increasingly difficult for farms to remain tended and small towns to remain populated. Besides the extensive migration out of the countryside and into heavily populated and increasingly dangerous cities, the Industrial Revolution also marked the beginning of humanity's contribution to the destruction of the Earth's natural environment. Rapidly growing industries not only required an increased amount of labor, but also energy. Coal was burnt, and harmful emissions were let out into the atmosphere with almost no consideration of how these fumes might negatively impact the Earth. Factories even began releasing their waste into reservoirs, rivers, and other natural areas. So, in short, industrialization was the first time we human beings became a major contributor to the contamination of our planet.
Now, answer the question. Using points and examples from the talk, explain 2 effects of the Industrial Revolution. You have 20 seconds to prepare your response. You may begin preparing now. You now have 60 seconds to speak. You may begin speaking now. Personally speaking, I definitely think that video games offer more benefits than drawbacks for children. I remember when I was a child, almost 30 years ago now, and we were the first generation to play a computer game in school called the Oregon Trail. Not only did we enjoy competing against each other, but we also learned about American history in an interesting and engaging way. On top of that, most children are surrounded by video games, so they're impossible to avoid. For example, tablets, phones, and computers all have different games, and many of them are not only entertaining, but educational. That's why I totally agree that video games are more beneficial than harmful for children.
The university has announced that Coach Jepsen will start coaching the women's volleyball team next semester. The woman in the listening passage is not crazy about this idea. First of all, the announcement states that because Miss Jepsen has been a successful softball coach, she can also help the volleyball team. However, the woman points out that she doesn't have any experience coaching volleyball, so she is doubtful about their chances of winning next year. Secondly, even though Miss Jepsen may help students improve their GPA, so does Coach Smith, the current volleyball coach. The woman in the conversation points out that Coach Smith always makes time to help her players with their studies and doesn't even allow them to play if their GPA falls below a certain grade. These are the reasons why the woman is really unhappy with this change.
I had never heard of the yips before, but I found it to be quite interesting. It's this psychological phenomenon that causes a professional athlete to lose the physical skills needed to perform the sport they play. The lecturer gives some great examples of the yips in baseball. One is Bill Blass, a famous pitcher who suddenly lost his ability to throw well in the 1970s. Once he became conscious of the motions required to pitch, he could no longer perform, and unfortunately, his career soon ended after that. Another baseball player with the yips was Steve Sax. After one bad game, he started to let fear get in the way of his throwing ability. Luckily, Sax worked with a psychologist to overcome his fear and continued to play for another 13 years. And so this is how the professor explains the idea of the yips.
In the lecture, the professor discusses the Industrial Revolution, which was a drastic change in the economy that caused massive numbers of people to seek jobs in factories. In particular, he describes two of the negative side effects of industrialization. One drawback of the Industrial Revolution was urbanization. When people realized they could easily find work in a factory, they moved to cities and abandoned the rural way of life. Unfortunately, this has made it difficult for farms to survive and for small towns to remain populated. Another downside of industrialization was, and still is, the environmental effects. At first, the growing industries meant that a lot of coal had to be burned for energy, and this released harmful emissions into the atmosphere. Also, factories polluted reservoirs and rivers with their wastes. So, as you can see, these are two very negative side effects of the Industrial Revolution.
All right, we're about to take a complete TOEFL writing practice test, and this is the new test. So this is the big change. On July 26, 2023, the TOEFL test changed, and the big change is in the writing section. There used to be 2 questions. There's still 2 questions. There's an integrated and independent question. The integrated question is the same, hasn't changed, but the independent question has changed. Now there is for question 2, is a question called writing for an academic discussion. It looks like this, and the idea is that you have to read an online discussion and then write about it. So follow the directions and I'm sure you'll do great. If you need more help with how to write this response, I'll put a link in the description to a video I made on how to answer these writing for academic discussion questions. So that's the big change. Here it is, so you can get to know what it's going to be like on test day. A few more quick things. Get ready to type without spell check. On test day, there's no spell check, so you'll have to do the same. Also, you'll see sample essays in the description, and you can also download a PDF, a Writing 24 Plus guide, free guide that gives you grading rubrics, that shows you templates, that gives you sample essays, all for the updated test. Everything's new, everything's updated, so check that out. It's all up to date, so been working hard to do it. So that's pretty much it for the most part. Also, check out the Emergency Course Premium package. Really great for students who have about a month to prepare. Their study plans, 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and 1 month. If you're in a hurry, you could finish it in 2 days. It'd be a pretty intense 2 days, but you could do it. And 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, that's the best amount of time. Check that out everything you need, practice tests, tips and tricks, just the best TOEFL materials to help you get your score as quickly and easily as possible so you can go in on test day feeling super confident no matter what comes at you. All right, but that's it. Let's do this TOEFL writing test. Good luck, everybody, and I'll see you at the end.
Writing Task 1. Directions. For this task, you will read a passage and listen to a lecture about an academic topic. You may take notes during this time. After the passages have finished, you will then be asked a question about them. After the question, you have 20 minutes to write your response. Effective responses are usually between 200 to 350 words. You may look at the reading passage and your notes as you write. Keep in mind that the question will not ask for your opinion. You have 3 minutes to read. You may begin reading now. Now listen to part of a lecture on the same topic you just read about.
You may have heard that half of the marriages in the United States end in divorce, but this is just plain false. This stereotype comes from 1980, when one census report revealed that 40% of American marriages end in divorce, and that number was likely to increase in the upcoming decades. However, current data suggests that the divorce rate is now less than 40%, and that number is likely to decrease in the near future. The first argument made in the reading is that female empowerment is somehow to blame for the rising divorce rate. But think about that for a minute. There are two people in a relationship. Are women solely to blame for the end of a marriage? Further still, there are other countries where women enjoy equal rights with men, and marriages in these countries don't have high divorce rates. Secondly, The author says that money is another reason why marriages fail. But, if that's the case, why are divorce rates highest in the richest countries in the world? There is some connection between overall wealth and gender equality, but there are poorer nations where women have the same rights as men and the divorce rate is not nearly as high as in the States. Statistics like this tell us that divorce hardly has anything to do with a family's finances. And perhaps the most ridiculous idea of all from the reading is that people think it's easier to get a divorce than work through their problems. All you have to do is a quick internet search to find dozens, perhaps hundreds, of marriage counselors and relationship specialists in your neighborhood. Couples try hard to work through their problems, investing not just their time, but also their money in seeing the relationship work. Indeed, recent surveys indicate that such professionals see many clients both in person and through online platforms. This makes it clear to us that it is not a need for instant happiness that is to blame for the high divorce rate in this country.
Now, answer the question. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage. You have 20 minutes to write.
check out the TOEFL Emergency Premium Package. We have study plans for people for 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and 1 month. So no matter how long you have to prepare, there's a study plan for you in this premium course. Has 6 practice tests. This offer is only available for our YouTube audience, so follow the link in the description to the TOEFL Premium course. All right, good job. You wrote 2 essays. That's hard work. It's mentally draining. It's exhausting. So take a break, enjoy, reward yourself in some way. If you need more help, check out tstprep.com. We don't just have courses, but we also have teachers, we have practice questions, we have sample essays, writing evaluations. So you can check us out there. But if you feel like you need more help with writing, check out this video here where I show you some ways of practicing at home on your own that'll help you improve if you feel like you need it. But that's it. Thanks for everybody for watching again, and I'll see you next time.